Hey folk, welcome back. So it is that time of year again where Monster High releases their Fang Vote doll. This year it was Gen 1 Abbey Bominable, and I have so many thoughts. And I know I literally always say that whenever I make a video because I literally always have so many thoughts. But really and truly, I think that this is the Fang Vote that has made me think more than any other Fang Vote. Rochelle was an easy pass for me. I wasn't a fan of that one. Jennifer, on the other hand, was an easy win for me. All of my votes won, and I just love that final doll with my whole heart. Caddy was also a pretty easy guess for me. She definitely didn't have the same impact as Jennifer, but I personally just really, really love G3 Caddy, and I did like what they did with her for the Fang vote, even if it wasn't quite as extravagant as we had seen before. But this year with Abbey, this is the first time that I've ever not had a clear cut feeling about the Fang vote doll. I am so entirely in two minds about her. So this is going to be an interesting little video. We're going to go through the entire Fang vote process. At this point, the doll is already up for pre-order and everything, but I want to run you through my thoughts through the entire process. So we're going to go with the base, what we knew from the beginning, the first round of voting, the second round of voting, and then the final. And I'm just sort of going to give you my thoughts along the whole process. And maybe this will finally help me decide how I feel about this doll, because I'm having a really, really hard time figuring it out, which is new for me, and I don't like it, so we're going to figure it out together. These are just going to be my opinions. This doll, it's not just me who's sort of in two minds about this, okay? It does feel like there are a lot of thoughts on this doll, so it will make sense that some of you are going to disagree with me, and that's totally chill. Just please be kind about whatever opinions you'd like to express in the comments down below. And if you enjoy me going back and forth and suffering and entertainment in this video, if you could subscribe and hype, that is super duper helpful for me. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in to Miss Abbey. So for Abbey, like the previous Fang vote dolls, her outfit was a given from the get-go. We did not get to vote on the outfit. That's sort of the baseline, and we got to vote around the outfit. So of course we have to talk about that first. So here's the image of completely blanked out Abbey just wearing the outfit. And this is a stellar start. I think a lot of us were very, very excited right from the get-go, and I certainly was seeing this. I think this is so incredibly fun, and it is multiple pieces. I believe it's the jacket can come off. I think maybe the neck cuff can too. It's either attached to the jacket or it's a completely separate piece, but you can remove some of that. There is just a basic mini dress underneath, and then there is of course the piece that is the most obvious, which is this huge, huge overskirt situation, and it is so gorgeous. It looks like we have a lot of detail in here, a lot of different really lovely intricate fabrics, which I super appreciate. The different faux furs, I think this is really fun. It is definitely a standout. The silhouette is definitely not what most people wear day to day on the streets, but I think that's super fun. I think it's just a very interesting situation we've got going on here. It's just very high fashion, and I think it's quite fun, quite cool. I do especially really like that collar around the neck that goes up so high, it's sort of almost hitting her cheekbones. I think that's a really, really cool element. Baseline, I think this is great. And then from the back, we actually get another fun detail, which I do think a lot of people have forgotten. I think that some of the votes that perhaps, in my opinion, went awry later down the line were forgetting about this back piece, because I don't really think that we got reminded of it a lot. You obviously see it here. This was a picture that we got to see when doing the Fang vote. But I don't know. I just feel like this is a piece that got forgotten, which kind of sucks because it is a super cool piece. There's a lot of intricate sculpting going on. I don't think it looks like real chains. And I do think that would have been cool to get real chains, but I'm also not necessarily surprised to not be getting real chains. I'm not horribly hung up about it. And then at the end, they've got it's the hooks that climbers throw to get a grip. I very obviously don't know what I'm talking about, but I know what they're referencing, and I do think it's cool that they're referencing that. I just think that's nice. At least that's what it looks like to me. I'm just assuming that I'm correct there. But as a baseline, for me, I think this is really fun. I definitely can see why some people wouldn't like this design. It might just be a little bit too out there for some people, and obviously that's fine. But I was really excited, and I was equally excited to look at the first round options. So, first up was the hair and the headpiece. I don't actually know at this point which of these was like option A and option B. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the voting's over. But this first one was the one that I preferred out of the two hairstyles. She does have like some braids in the front, and it looks like the hair is also braided through this crown piece. I did see a lot of people thinking that the crown was like, why would we pick a plastic accessory over a fur accessory, which I'll show you in the second head and hair accessory option. And I do understand that, but I also just thought that this sculpting was quite nice. I liked the vibes that it brought, and because the like outfit is so high fashion, it just sort of feels like it works. And also, I thought that this looked like really nice in combination. Like at least in my head, I thought this would look really nice in combination with that piece on the back of the dress. So this was my favorite for sure. This was the second option. I this one's hard because like as much as I was gassing up the crown, I also do understand why like the fur might be preferable. Like again, it is a fabric piece as opposed to just a molded plastic piece. And I mean, the fur, it doesn't color match to the outfit in the same way. Like the outfit doesn't have fur that is this color, and that does sort of bother me. Slight interjection here. Later on in the video, I will actually have this same debate with myself, but I just wanted to say it here also. I don't know if the fur matches because based on this image alone, it feels like the fur is a little bit darker than the fur on her dress. But then when you get to like a composite image, it feels like it might match. So I don't know. I just wanted to say I might be a little inaccurate on that. It's hard to tell. But obviously, the fur ties in with the faux fur on the outfit. And so, like, I do think that that was solid. The bubble braids, I go so back and forth on. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's not so bad. Like, it's kind of fun to get the hair, like, away from her head and, like, have this cool sculptural element to it. Other times, it does read just a little bit too, like, sweet to me. I believe the intention was actually to reference an indigenous hairstyle. So there is that, which is like, I appreciate that maybe we're pulling references like that, but then that opens up a whole nother situation, which is just the fact that in G1, Abby was not necessarily the most culturally accurate character because she is the daughter of the Yeti, so like Himalayas, but she did have a very, very strong Russian accent. And obviously, people can like have multiple lines of heritage. They can like move from one place to another. So, like, there are reasons that that could be the case. But I did just want to note that, like, because of that, Abby was sort of like definitely not the most controversial character in G1 of Monster High, but that was like something that was sort of critiqued. So you can sort of be the judge on whether or not the inclusion of a reference to an indigenous hairstyle is or is not appropriate for a character like Abby. I think that's a very complicated issue, and I think that I'm not really, with my white little hands, my white little American hands, the one who should be ultimately like giving a verdict on that, right? But I just kind of wanted to note that. Point being was like, I preferred the crown, but I can see elements of why people like this one. The other really cool thing to note, and I will give enormous credit to the designer of this doll, Annalise Lau, she was very like aware of the critique from past Fang votes, and specifically with Jennifer, who I believe she also designed. That one was like the two different hairstyles were so different, and a lot of people were really, really heartbroken about the hairstyle that did win. So with this, she very intentionally made both hairstyles to where they would be rooted in the same pattern. So obviously, like, you would have to find a way to get your hands on the head accessory, but as far as the hairstyle itself, if you restyle hair, the hair is rooted in such a way where you can actually achieve either of these styles with the hair that the doll comes with. And I do think that that is just like a level of care that you don't often see. And I really genuinely appreciate that. So props to her for that one for sure. Then we had the makeup, and I do feel extremely strongly on this one. This first option is not the one that I picked because, listen, I don't think that this is an ugly look. I think that the like freckling she has is very cute. I think her eyes look quite striking and gorgeous. I just didn't want to see Abby with like a light color lip. I'm sorry. I feel like we were getting this one is like a pinky purple, but it's still sort of pinkish. And I just feel like we see so many pink lips on Monster High dolls, and out of any doll brand, the one line that has the most excuse to not do pink lips is Monster High. And especially on like this high fashion, like collector level doll, I just didn't want to see pink lips. Like, I'm not even saying that they look terrible. Abby has had other dolls with pink lips where I think they look great on her. And like, it's not, again, it's not even that they look bad. I just wanted something more exciting, which is why option 2 appealed to me a lot more. This like deep, deep dark navy blue lip, the dramatic eyes. There's like sparkling around her eyebrows. Like she looks a little frostbitten. Her lower lashes are extended with white, and it kind of reminds me of a snowflake. Like I don't know. I just think this one's a lot more dramatic and a lot more unique. And in my opinion, the other face is like not that far off from a face that you could expect to see on like a Playline G3 Abbey, or even if they did like a different alumni style Abbey in the G1 style. Like, I don't know. I feel like there are 1,000 other instances where you can get the pink lips face. Whereas this other darker one was just more interesting to me. So that's what I wanted to win. And then the last vote was for the hands and earrings, like combination. You couldn't separate one from the other. So honestly, both of these I thought were good options. The first option that I'm showing you here has, it looks like some silvery henna, and then these super cool long nails with purple at the like bed of the nail, going to a whitish clear color at the tip. And then the earring has like these three little things that dangle down, and it's, you know, sort of baseline like a square design, but there is a lot of painted detail on there, which is quite pretty. I do like these a lot, and in a vacuum, I think that these are perfectly gorgeous. I did pick this second option here just because, assuming that the dark makeup one, this is what I would have wanted to go with, the dark makeup. So I was sort of like hoping that that would be the case. This earring is more of a cuff style where it's just different spikes along the cuff, and then the hands are much, much darker. So the fingers themselves are a little bit frostbitten where they're like getting black towards the tip, and then the nails are very long and black, and she's got white henna going on. And I just think they're fun. Again, both are nice, but specifically with the dark makeup, I was like, this would go crazy with dark makeup. And so that's what I wanted to see. So those were my thoughts for round one. And then here is the image of everything that won round one. So, I mean, I got 2 out of 3, which is pretty solid. And given the fact that I could see pros and cons on the hair, and like knowing that the style at least would be easy to replicate, I mean, obviously the crown, that's a different story, but I could live with the fur headpiece and I could like play around with the hair. So far, we were golden. I was like, excellent. We've got the dark makeup. I'm living for it. We have like the dark hands. I'm living for that as well. Very, very cool, very fun. However, I do think once we are looking at this doll, where it's not basically just a mannequin with a dress on it, already in round one, I do think we're starting to see some of the problems that really, in my opinion, just get like amplified in round two. And that's that this is just so unbelievably voluminous of a doll. And I like volume, okay? I love like a good voluminous hair. I like big, like fat flowing shirts or dresses, the wide hips of this dress. Like I love all of those things. But I do think that, especially on like a small doll scale, it's just you sort of have to be careful with how they play together. And for me, I do think we're starting to see where there's just a lot going on. And I do think that Abby herself is getting a tinge lost. Especially, I was surprised with this to be like, oh, wow. Like, I was so excited about the face, but it's not that it looks bad. I just do feel like I almost can't even see the face because there's so much else happening. Like, my eyes don't land on her face first. And now I have to say something genuinely insane. You all are allowed to disagree with me. Obviously, I am not any form of police. Like, you can disagree with me, but just please be nice. I already know, like, most of you are going to disagree with this, and that's fine. I think she should have been a G3 Abby. Hear me out, okay? The main reason is just because I think with like the extreme volume of the hair. She's got the fur and the bubble braids giving her volume, the extreme volume at the throat with that collar piece, at the shoulders, the extreme volume at the hips, the fur at like the pelvis area. Like this design is so heavy. And then you just see like her skinty little G1 legs. And it just feels like she's about to topple over. Like that's probably the best way for me to put it. So I'm saying I would like a G3 Abbey specifically just because those bodies are so much sturdier. And I wonder almost if she could have like withstood the weight design wise a little bit better, because right now I just feel like I only see her head and her tiny little legs and then a mass of design around her. And that it doesn't mean that she's ugly. Like I still do like elements of this. This is where we're starting to see like I'm very much in two minds, but I do just keep looking at her and thinking like maybe she would look a little bit more balanced if the base doll itself just had a little bit more heft to it. And I am also really curious to see how the stands turned out and if these end up balancing well on the stands when this doll gets produced, because I didn't say this in the beginning. Sorry, I just wanted to dive into my thoughts, but the way the Fang Vote dolls work, if you haven't seen them before, is if you're a Fang Club member, you can vote in two separate rounds of voting for different elements of the dolls. And then they are made to order dolls. So they're like available to order for whatever time period. And then that closes and you can never order them retail ever again. They are exclusive to Mattel Creations. And then they're supposed to ship, I believe, in like December. We'll get to like the details at the very, very end. But I'm curious to see in December if these stands balance the doll well, because there's just, again, so much volume and I imagine so much weight, and she does not have weight in her legs to like counterbalance that out at all. So that was a really long way of me saying I just think that the G3 body might have helped balance out this outfit a little bit better, and I do think she's getting like slightly lost, but I at this point had not at all given up hope. Like at this point I was still like, I'm going to buy this doll for sure. I have my complaints, I have my critiques, but I was still like, no, she's looking really, really cool. And then round two came, and now I have no idea what to do. So the first thing in round two that we got to vote on was the shoes. And I want to say these shoes, I think both are great options. And I also think neither is a good option. And there's a lot that goes into this. So I'm going to talk about these shoes for too long. Sorry. So this first option here is a white base boot. It does have a really gorgeous object heel sculpted in there with like a little yeti sort of like coming out of a cave. I think that's incredible. And then the fur that goes over the boot is one of like the same fur colors that is found on the dress. Personally, I like that the fur color is found in the dress just because personally it pisses me off that the fur on the headpiece is not in the dress, and it just feels disjointed because of that. At least in my opinion, I'm much more of like a matchy person in that way. I like elements to be present in at least two parts of a design just to make it feel balanced. So I know that that's like mostly a me issue. I know that people agree with me, but like I do understand you don't have to be matchy. I just appreciate that they used the same fur with this. I just think that that looks a little bit better. And I love the object heel. Obviously, object heels have become sort of a contentious topic within the community because they keep doing such absolutely ass ones like the Edward Scissorhands collector doll. This is a really gorgeous object heel where it looks like the sculpting is so intricate and it's well incorporated. It's not just like we stuck an object on there. Like it actually looks really nice. So I love that. Reasons that I don't like this is because the best part is the object heel. And like, yes, inherently assuming that you are displaying your doll's front facing, you're not necessarily going to see object heels on any doll the most, but especially on this Abbey because her like skirt portion is so enormous. You're never ever going to see the object heel, which is the coolest part of this sculpt. So it's like, I love these, but also you're not going to see maybe the best part of them. And then also, while I do think it's nice to sort of like draw in that same fur color, I do understand where the critique comes in that this bright white is sort of like, where else is this? Because the rest of the choices from round one were so dark. I mean, she has a dark headpiece, she has dark makeup, dark hands. And to be fair, I wanted two out of the three of those, but like we didn't know that these were going to be the shoe options. So I do think that perhaps that stark white is a little bit much when it's like put together with the rest of the outfit, because the rest of the outfit is definitely pulling a lot on the darker side. But that being said, I did still think that these were better than the second option. So these were what I voted for. The second option shoe is tough because in a vacuum, I do think that these are a really, really fun shoe. I think the sparkly black fur is like a cool element. And like the general shape of the shoe, I think is good, especially the height. I think the height actually hits at a very, very flattering place. These are a little bit taller, like a little closer to the knee than the white boots. But I don't think that I like really anything else for this. I mean, it's hard because the heel and the sculpting in general is certainly less exciting, but also you're not going to see it. So maybe it's better if it's less exciting. I think my thing is like the heel just looks like a chain to me. And so it's reminding me more of Spectra than Abbey. But my biggest issue with this is the black sparkly fur, because at this point we have on the dress itself three different fur colors. We have a dark blue, a light blue, and then it looks like a white trim. So I'm saying three different colors. And then when you include in the headpiece, that's like, I think, a slightly different blue. At least in the pictures, it looks a little bit like a different blue than the one that's found on her dress. Maybe that's just the pictures and maybe I'm crazy. Let's just go ahead and say that I'm crazy and say that the headpiece is the same color as the dress. Because it really did look different, I feel like, but now I'm staring at it and I'm like, maybe it's actually not different and it's just the surroundings. I don't know. So you already have three different faux fur colors. So we're gonna add black sparkly fur just out of nowhere. Again, it's like that. It doesn't have to be matchy matchy, but it just feels like an awful lot of different colors of faux fur. So it's a little bit weird, but I do think that the darker color might be better. Honestly, if these were like the same deep color as her headpiece, I think that would have tied in beautifully. Even if you wanted to add the sparkle to make it like a little bit different, I think that that could have been fine, but I just think it would have been more cohesive. I do think with, again, all of the darker options from round one, the concept of a darker color on the boots sort of works. And visually speaking, lighter colors have less like visual weight than darker colors do. And so because the rest of her design is already so heavy, it does sort of make sense to try to balance it out. I know that sounds like maybe counterintuitive, but like there's nothing you can do at the point of where we ended round one to make this look like a light, like a visually light doll. This is going to be a very heavy looking doll no matter what. And so I almost feel like it would have been better to lean into that with the bigger, darker boots. But then there's all the things that I don't like about them. So that's why I said neither of these boots is good, but also both are good. Both fill different roles that I would have liked the shoes to fill, but also both cause new problems for me. So yeah, I picked the white boots, but I either one I think would have been like I'm not 100% on. And honestly, the exact same thing goes for her bag. I think both of these bags that I'm about to show you are just by far too chunky. They're way, way, way too big for this design. Frankly, I'm this might sound crazy because I know like as collectors, we're paying a lot of money for these collector dolls. Like we always want more accessories, and I do understand that. I honestly feel like we could have lived without a purse just because her outfit is so enormous and like where her hands sit is going to be close to her hips and thighs. So the widest point of the outfit. So let's add even more bulk there. It's just going to get lost. That's my opinion. Like I just think that visually speaking, where the purse is naturally going to rest on the doll, you're not going to see it because it's going to be on top of this insane skirt with all of this patterning and all of these different fabrics and this huge silhouette. And so I think both of these were way, way too big. The first one, the ice pick in a block of ice where the ice pick sort of forms the handle. I think this concept is 10 out of 10. I think this is very fun, very cool. However, I'm not even gonna say the execution is bad because now that like I'm aware of what it is, I do think that it looks good. When I first saw this picture, I was like, what the fuck even is that? Like I had to dive deep and actually read things to know what this was supposed to be. And so I think perhaps that's where a lot of people lost this one. I think this is a cooler concept. Again, I think that the idea of her like jamming an ice pick into a block of ice and making that her purse definitely fits the very, very dark vibe that this Abbey was giving off, but I just don't think that enough people were able to look at it and instantaneously know what it is. And I do think that's sort of the goal for design. I don't know. Like obviously not everyone like has encountered ice picks, so not everyone is immediately going to know regardless, but I just feel like something about the bag itself, something about this just the message did not translate in my opinion fully. Like it needed a little bit of explanation before I got it. And with that explanation, I do think it's better, but I don't like that I had to have the explanation. I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm just being too nitpicky. It is what it is. With the second option, this is a lantern. And it's so hard because I do think if you're in a vacuum visually, this in my opinion reads more clearly and it looks nice. Like not to say that the ice pick one doesn't look nice, but again just because it doesn't to me immediately go, oh, this is what happened. Like everyone immediately recognizes a lantern, and so I think that this one just has a little bit more clarity in its design. And again, like in a vacuum I think this is solid, especially assuming the white boots. I feel like this is a little bit lighter, and so in my head I ended up voting for the lantern. I was like, okay, white boots. And then this lantern is also lighter in color than the ice pick. So it's like, okay, maybe that can sort of tie it in. That's sort of where my brain was at. But I do agree also with the critique that a lot of people have said that's like, we have had lanterns before. We had a Twyla with a lantern. We had Lenore Lumington that had a lantern. And those are, I don't even know if those are the only two, but like we've had lanterns in Monster High before. It's not necessarily that new or exciting or special for Abbey to have a lantern. And so I definitely understand that critique. And again, either one is extra bulky. It's just, do you want it to be bulky vertically or do you want it to be bulky horizontally? So again, much like with the shoes, there are good things about both of these and there are bad things about both of these. And it just, yeah, it just was kind of troublesome. And then lastly was the stands, which hilariously enough, I really thought was like a non issue for me. I do have a very clear cut opinion on this, but I also was like, it's going to be fine if the one that isn't mine wins. And now seeing the final product, I disagree with myself. So this first option is like a stand that has sculpted mountains, and then it looks like it's supposed to be like mist waving through the mountains, which I do think is a beautiful concept. I do think that it's really, really pretty, and like the sculpting work, you cannot knock that. Like, absolutely, credit where credit is due. Whoever sculpted this, you did an amazing job. But as we'll see, I do think that it just gets a little bit busy. The option two for the stand was this elevated piece that to me looks like cracked ice. Like this looks like she stepped on a frozen lake and it like cracked. And I thought that was so funky. And just because the rest of the doll has design everywhere, I was like, maybe it would be good to have a slightly more simplistic stand. I just thought that'd be cute. And again, I like the idea of it being like she's walking like perilously across this frozen ice. I just thought that was kind of cute, but again, at the time of voting, I didn't have super strong feelings about the stand. However, this is the final doll. And I just don't know. The purse again is realistically to me just like a non-issue perhaps. I think the pickaxe would have been more unique. I sort of understand why the lantern won. Either way though, that at the very least is a piece that you can just not display on the doll. Like if you absolutely hate it, you just don't have to have a bag on the doll, and I think she's going to be fine. But then we have the boots and the stand, and neither of those are really what I was hoping for. So maybe you can see here what I mean with the boots. It feels like it's not that the color black even comes out of nowhere because she does have the black on the top portion, but the sparkle just comes out of nowhere. I don't know. And it just, I can't decide how to feel looking at them. Like, I think if they weren't fur, because that's the other thing, it's the fact that it's this sparkly fur of the boots that's really bothering me. I think if they weren't fur, perhaps if they were just like a black fabric that like clung to the legs and maybe had like just the tiniest bit of like that light blue faux fur around like the top, that could have been nice. As is, I don't know. They're sort of a lot. And then the stand, you literally can't even fucking see the stand at all. The dress is enormous again. So like much how I was saying earlier that it would obscure the Yeti and the sculpted heel on the shoes that I wanted, it's obscuring the entire stand. Remember earlier how I said I think a lot of people, while voting, forgot that there was this whole back piece to the dress? I also forgot, while talking about the second round and like the end design, to discuss how this ties in. So now we get to do it in editing mode. So the reason that I think that this got forgotten is because of how the votes turned out for round two. The shoes, they're like a separate issue. I think that you can make an argument that either shoe should have been like a little bit tougher to fit with this, or perhaps like the black ones are maybe slightly better because this has again like a little bit of toughness, a little bit of visual weight. The black shoes have more visual weight, whatever. The really key components that I think could have tied into this back panel, like this plastic sculptural piece, are the purse and the stand. So if you're looking at this and you're looking at the grappling hooks, I finally found the word for that, by the way, on the back, at that point, I think that honestly, the ice pick just fits better. You could say that, oh, grappling hooks and lanterns are both like tools, and so that would make more sense. But an ice pick is also a tool. And I just think that there's something inherently very badass about how this back panel has been sculpted. And I think that the ice pick is inherently way more badass than the lantern. And then when it comes to the stand, yeah, you could say, oh, well, if her stand is like the mountaintops, it's like she climbed all the way up to the mountain. Okay, sure, but the mountaintops with the mist feels so
peaceful and calm and nice. And this back sculptural panel, again, it just feels with those grappling hooks much harsher, much more like about the dangers of being in the mountain. And so I think that the stand that is like the cracked ice makes way more sense with that. And I just like, obviously some people might have remembered like this might be irrelevant, but I do think it's possible that like a lot of people forgot this was even an element of the design whilst they were voting.
So to go ahead and go with the boring details there, she is, as I said, available for pre-order. The pre-order started January 28th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and is going to go until February 11th at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So that's like the time period that you have to order the stall if you would like. She is $100 and she is meant to ship on or before December 11th of this year. But I do believe that it do say in like the fine print that the shipping date is subject to change. So that's really like a rough estimate as opposed to like perhaps an out and out promise. And also last year with Caddy, they seemed to be shipping out in like waves. Like they would ship out some and then not the rest. And then like 2 weeks later, they shipped out more. I don't know. I don't know what was going on with that. I don't know if they're going to do that again, but that's like roughly. So you're going to be waiting like about a year to get this stall if you want to get her. And I still don't know if I do. I still don't know if I want to get her. And frankly, I'm leaning towards not getting her because we're going to do the doll rubric live on camera here. And I'm just going to add these up in my head. So don't judge me if the numbers are a little bit off. But when it comes to emotion, I can only give her a 2. Like I was extremely hype at the beginning, but like my doubts have been creeping in. I can only give her a 2. Need to customize. I'm I'm gonna say 4 because I might want to redo the hair if I were to get her, and I would potentially want to find her new boots, but that's a pain in the ass. Like I don't want to have to do that. So a 4 is definitely the absolute top that I can get her. So that's 6 total right now. Quality, she does get a 5 because whether or not I like it, that doesn't really change the quality. So quality, she gets a 5, which is going to make 11 because yeah, 2, 4, 5, 11. I'm on this. Number of pieces I like, I have to give her a 3 because I think I do like more than half the pieces. I mean, I like her entire outfit. In a vacuum, I do like the bag. I I guess those are the only pieces she comes with. Should I only give her a 2? I like half the overall pieces. I think I kind of have to because I don't necessarily like the shoes and I don't like the stand and I am uncertain on the hair. Oh, we'll give her a 3 just to be charitable. Well, just to be nice. So that would be 14 and then uniqueness, she gets a 4 because she's not a new brand or character to my collection, but this is certainly a very unique design. So that would be what? Hold on, I lost myself. I was at 14, right? So 18 points, I think. Hold on. 2, 4 is 6, 5 is 11, 3 is 14, 4 is 18. So 18 points, which is not enough, according to my rubric, to be spending $100 on a doll. Ideally speaking, I want a doll to score 22 points if it's more than $60. So I shouldn't buy her. And I think what I'm experiencing is just that FOMO where I'm like, but what if she looks better in person? What if I change my mind down the line? But like realistically speaking, she might look better in person. That's perfectly true. But I don't think any of the flaws that I have pointed out, like the visual balancing act, I don't think that's going to get better. I just like I don't know, especially comparing like Jennifier's stock photos to what came. I feel like that was a pretty good representation. So I feel like this is also maybe a good representation and I'm not sold completely on the stock photo. And it really, really does come to the expense because if this doll was $50, I'd take the chance on her. Absolutely. Even 60 or 70, I would take the chance on her. But $100 plus taxes plus shipping because you know Mattel does not give you free shipping on anything on their website. I just don't think like if I'm going to spend $100 on a doll, I want to feel like I need to have this in my collection. I want to feel like if I don't have this, I'm going to be really, really sad. Whereas I'm like, ooh, what if I am sad? But I'm not. Like the thought of not having her fills me with like, what if you change your mind? It doesn't fill me with, no, but you love her. And so at that point, I think I have to just not get her because I shouldn't be giving into the FOMO. And I also, for me, obviously, like, I'm not here to judge any of the decisions you all make. For me, I don't think I should be spending $100 with doubt in my head. I don't think I should be spending $100 and thinking, okay, but I want to change this, and like, "Ah, I really wish this wasn't this, and oh, that looks sort of. I don't want to be feeling that way. Like, if I'm spending that much money, I wanna feel very satisfied and very happy with everything that I'm getting, so I think I need to just not get her, but it's not easy. As I said in the beginning, like, Rochelle was such an easy pass for me. This is a tough one. This is a tough pill to swallow, and this is ultimately just me being like, "Your responsible brain has to win out over your FOMO brain." That's it. Because I do think there is also the possibility that I would get her and then have her in my hands and be like, "Shit, I cannot believe I spent $100 on this." And I don't wanna feel that. So I'm just gonna appreciate her from afar. When she does start shipping out and I get to see all the reviews of everyone who did buy her, I'm very, very excited to get to see that and see how she is, but I think I'm gonna be okay if she doesn't enter my collection. So that's sort of where I'm at after discussing everything with you all. But I would love to know what y'all are thinking in the comments down below. Are you as conflicted as I was? Are you suspicious about the things that won? I know that's like always a little conspiracy theory in the background. Is like, ooh, is Fang Vote secretly rigged? Just because like influencers will post polls on like their social media and stuff. Mostly I see it on Instagram stories of like, oh, what do you want to win? And the polls did not line up with who voted or like how the Fang vote turned out. That very well could just be that it's a smaller sample size or that like those specific people really like that, but the broader audience might like something different. Or it could be that Fang vote is a little bit tiddly bit rigged. I don't know. I just think it's like that's always a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I think with this one, I do believe it's slightly more likely that it's just perhaps the silent majority preferred like the black boots, for example, but that's just my sort of opinion. Would love to hear all of your thoughts down below. But I'm going to stop yapping for today, guys. I hope this was entertaining for you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night or whatever it might be. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.